Prepare yourselves for a battle of epic proportions between two titans. Feast upon their voices and revel in their words. This is Dueling Ogres.
Hello, Ogres, and welcome to episode 113. Thank you for joining us as always on this representative Tuesday evening, Earth date May 16th, 2017. I'm your host, Remington Hitchcock, and with me as always is my co-host, Fiddleswitch Thumbtooth. Fiddleswitch? Mr. Thumbtooth. Which do you prefer?
I prefer if people call me Thumbtooth, if it's all the same to you.
It's not Thumbtooth. I would be happy to acquiesce to your request.
That's my God-given name. My Christian name is Thumbtooth.
That's not one of the greatest ones I've done.
I don't know. I really enjoy it.
I really feel like that voice has some potential, but maybe not with Fiddleswitch Thumbtooth.
I don't know. I really enjoy it. I think you could make a whole character about that and it would be just fine.
Well, isn't he a lot like the guy who pushed the cart and sells drugs?
No. Thumbtooth seems like he's more slow-witted.
Yeah.
Where the other guy seemed like he was just more passive.
Peasley,
Phil Dankerton.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I like to think that Fiddleswitch Thumbtooth, because here's my imagining of this character.
Like maybe they hang out together sometimes.
He's an older British man. He just enjoys life, you know what I mean? He's retired. He lives with his wife in the country.
Yeah.
They grow flowers out in their British garden.
But otherwise just leads a very uneventful British life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that. I mean, I guess there's not a whole lot of story to tell there. Well, of course, maybe he was maybe the story to tell isn't where he lives now, but his past.
Yeah. Oh, he has a crazy past.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into in episode 200.
You won't remember to do that.
Maybe I will.
I doubt it.
I'm going to get it tattooed on me Memento style now.
Okay, sounds
Remember Fiddleswitch Thumbtooth. A year from now, I'll catch a reflection of my back in the mirror and Fiddleswitch Thumbtooth. Who is that?
So, this is actually Brandon, not Fiddleswitch.
I'm Brandon. And that's the last name you have, right?
Huh?
That's the last name you have,
yep,
right?
Yep, that is the official last name. I had another one, but it's not as good. I was going to call you the Cubic Zirconia Man because you don't like the Diamond Man as
the
a name,
not the
as a name, not the person.
I'm okay with the person.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think it's stupid and the joke has run its course.
It's going to be weird going back to being introduced by my Christian name, though.
Yeah, Brandon Full. I don't even know if I'll like saying it anymore.
Yeah. Maybe say it with disdain. More disdain than you typically do.
Brandon Full.
Like it just, you want to spit it out.
Yeah. Brandon. This is stupid. What are we doing?
This is dumb. We have an interview today.
We do.
2 weeks of interviews.
Yeah, it's almost like we planned it this way.
Yeah. We actually had a month of interviews if you look at our episodes.
This is true.
Because we interviewed David last week. Week before we did an episode proper, and then week before that, we had Jordan on.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Mm-hmm. So it was a little less than a month of interviews. Not like the one where we did a while ago where we had 4 interviews in a row.
Yeah, we had like...
That one was brutal at the end.
Yeah. We were just like, oh my gosh, let's never do that again. So we didn't, but we almost did. We just want to be friends together. We just want to dish about things.
Speaking of dishing.
Oh, it's like a segue that I set up here.
That's the name of the podcast of the person we're interviewing.
That's right. We're going to be interviewing Jennifer Briney from the Congressional Dish podcast. And for those of you who are listeners for the haphazard, funny way that we deliver geek news, this is not that podcast.
Yes.
By and large. I have finally let Brandon talk about governmental and political stuff, much to my chagrin.
You patted me on the buttocks and said, get out there, buddy.
Yep, that's what happened. But the interview itself was, again, fantastic. We've had really good guests lately, and we can't thank them enough for giving us the time. Yes, giving us the time for us to kiss their butts.
Well, and to be fair... the episode doesn't get into strong political opinions.
Right.
I mean, the episode, you'll hear it. Obviously, you're listening to it now. So if you continue to listen on,
Yeah.
We talk more about the inner workings of the House of Representatives and how bills are passed. We don't really get into partisanship at all.
Yeah, it's just more broad strokes
Yeah.
of that stuff. And if you really want to get into the nitty gritty, you can actually check her podcast out at thecongressionaldish.com.
Yeah.
Or find her on all of the things.
So if you listen to us and you think, I wish they would just stop talking about video games and movies for a minute and talk about how bills are passed, this is the episode for you.
Yeah.
Strap in, tune in, drop out. What is this saying? Tune in, drop out, wear it, strap in.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm pretty sure
even
that's
referencing.
It's from a movie or MTV or something. I don't know.
Man, MTV? Is that even a thing anymore?
Yeah.
Is it?
They just play a lot of shows about 16-year-olds with babies.
Oh. I thought that was VH1. I thought MTV has gone the way of the dodo.
No, MTV does 16 and pregnant.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't watch that garbage.
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes and it is not good.
So before we get into the interview, let's do our little pre-show recap.
Little banter.
Little
dance.
Tug and pull. No?
No,
we're not doing that.
not calling it that.
Okay.
We're certainly not calling it that.
Fair enough.
As far as this week goes,
Take all the fun out of it for me.
I've still been playing Prey, as I mentioned last week.
Yeah, I've seen some footage of it. I've watched Markiplier play it because I've become a big Markiplier fan. First, it was Toby Turner, Tobuscus, and then Toby kind of quit playing games so much, and I was like, okay, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So I turned to Markiplier, and Markiplier is slowly doing the same thing where he's being more creative and doing things, and that's fine, and I enjoy his stuff more than Toby's. But he's still playing games, and I watched him playing Prey, and I was really interested in that game.
Prey has honestly one of the best science fiction stories that I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
I'm maybe about 20 hours in. I think I'm on the downslope of it. I've been taking some time to do some side quests, but at this point I've kind of put them on hold and I'm just trying to barrel through the rest of the story.
Right.
I don't have a whole lot of time to play games really. So I just want to finish it because I never finish anything ever in my life.
Yeah.
It's kind of a running theme. So, but no, I'm really enjoying it. The story's really good. Next week, since it'll just be you and I'll probably go into the story a little bit more.
Sounds good.
But yeah, I'm loving that. And I've also found a love of the Star Wars Black Series action figures.
Yeah.
I've picked up a couple of those on May 4th. NASA had a sale on all Star Wars merchandise at NASA where I work.
Yeah.
So I picked up a 3 or 4 figures.
Yeah.
And they're really good quality. I like them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep. They just released recently the 40th anniversary figures that are on the original, or made to look like the original card stock that the old 70s figures were released on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I've only picked up one so far. I got Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Which is really the only one you need.
Well, they have a Jawa that just came out.
Ooh.
And I really want the Jawa.
I understand that completely.
Yeah.
It's a wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
But they're collectibles, but I'm opening them. I know that for collectible purposes, you keep them in the package or whatever.
What is wrong with you?
I like them open on my shelf.
You're the worst toy keeper ever.
Well, and what am I going to do? Put it in like plastic or put it in like a plastic case and keep it and hold on to it like one of those weirdos? It's like, this is going to be worth something someday.
Listen, I'm playing devil's advocate. If I have a toy, I want to open too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, barring the Princess Amidala over here.
So you're not
Queen
devil's
Amidala.
advocate. You're Brandon's advocate. You're on my side.
Yeah. I mean, she's still in the box. She's been in the box. I have a giant-sized Darth Vader over here. He's still technically in the box, if you can call that a box.
Yeah.
To be fair.
It's like shoes.
Yeah.
It's cardboard shoes.
Yeah.
Cardboard snowboard is kind of what it looks like.
What?
Because it's long.
Yeah.
It's both of his feet. It's a snowboard with a back. It's a Segway. He's in a reverse Segway. I can keep going. If we're just trying to fill time, I can keep naming things. Cardboard elevator.
Uh-huh.
I guess I can't keep going.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
I really wanted to put you to the test there, and you failed.
Anchor.
Anchor?
Anchor. Yeah, because he sinks when he's
Cement shoes, yeah.
Cement shoes. Snowshoe. A lot of shoes.
You already did the snow thing.
I did snowboard.
I mean...
I can only use the word snow once.
Yeah.
Snowshoe, snowboard, snow ski, snow...
Nobody knows the trouble I've seen.
Okay, what have you been doing? Besides practicing your rich baritone.
Oh, thank you for noticing. What have I been doing? I've been suffering.
More than usual?
Yeah. This month has been slow at work.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing. I've been suffering. Did some cleaning, you know.
You've been working on some stuff for our new studio.
I have been. I've been gathering materials more so than anything else. I now have my table saw hooked up and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Which was something that I had been wanting to do since I had got it and hadn't had the chance to yet. So my shop is about as set up as I can get it without being in the basement where I want it to be.
Yeah.
But I have pretty much everything ready to set up and start working on the new studio. And I'm going to see if I can't get Brandon over maybe next week.
Yeah.
And maybe we can do that other than the podcast. Maybe we can start putting some stuff up, and maybe we can make a little video on what it sounds like before and what it sounds like after we get the blankets up. And
we'll live stream the whole thing.
We certainly won't live stream the whole thing.
I can bring my laptop and plug it in.
Okay.
Set it up in the corner, put it on Twitch. People can you guys can tune in and watch us hammer.
Yeah.
Watch us nail.
We won't be using nails at all.
Well, we sort of will.
Well, not in that respect. We'll be screwing, though. There'll be a lot of screwing.
Yeah, when we're putting up the...
There will be hammering, but there won't be nailing.
This is probably one of our worst intros.
No, it's so bad.
It's at least in the top 5.
Yeah, it's the worst. So, yeah, new studio. Be on the lookout. Gonna have a video or some shit.
Yeah.
Whatever.
What are we gonna do? Who cares?
Whatever. Nobody cares.
Let's get into the interview, which is a million times better than everything we just did.
Yes. And we'll do that right
now.
Were you waiting for me to?
Yeah, I thought we were going to do it together.
No, we're going to now.
We're going to do it right now.
Now. Is that good?
Yeah, it was good. We'll see you after the interview.
Bye. With us today, we have Jennifer Briney. Jennifer is the host of the Congressional Dish. It is a podcast that you can find by going to congressionaldish.com. And I've already started with words being very hard. Jennifer, how are you doing today?
I am doing very well. Thank you so much for having me. How about you guys?
Not too bad, not too bad.
I am burning up. This room is like a furnace that we're in right now.
He's literally like just crying over nothing. It's not even that hot in
It's
here.
super hot in here. So, Remington, you did the introduction, Congressional Dish. I messed it up just as you did.
Yep.
Jennifer, tell us a little bit about Congressional Dish podcast.
So this is a podcast I've been doing for almost 5 years, and it's basically just because I wanted to know what was going on in Congress, like how the laws were changing and how that would affect me. And I couldn't really find that information anywhere. I mean, there's a few places like The Hill where you can read some articles, but there wasn't like anything that I could listen to while on my walks or anything. And so I decided to make the podcast that I was looking for, one that's not about campaigns and inter-party squabbles, but is instead about what is actually in these laws and how it can affect me. And so I started it by trying to read every bill that passed the House of Representatives, which turned out to be impossible. And so now I'm just kind of looking at the stuff that's not being covered, but I think should be. And so that's what people have come to expect from Congressional Dish. So if you're seeing something plastered all over the media about Congress, I'm probably not going to talk about that. But instead, I'll talk about like the government funding law that was just passed or the things that are being signed into law that we're just not hearing about at all because it's happening every single day. So I also watch congressional hearings that I find fascinating, and I share the ones that I feel like have information that we need to know. And I'm giving us as much information as I can as a one-person operation from my living room. So yeah, it's a fun podcast. Lately it's been nothing but depressing because there's very little good news, but yeah, I love doing it. And it's definitely taught me a lot about how our country actually functions as compared to what I was taught in elementary school, which was completely wrong.
Right.
And you've been doing this for 4 years now or longer than that?
I started in September of 2012. So it'll be 5 years this fall.
Okay. were you into following bills and things like that before you started the podcast? Like, did you do this before you started recording, or did you really kick it into gear once you started the podcast?
Well, I didn't read them regularly. It actually kind of happened the year before I started the podcast because I watch C-SPAN every once in a while, and my husband's a solar power engineer. And so they were debating an energy and water bill. And at the time, there was tax credits that were going to expire, which directly affected me and my husband. And so I was just watching the debate. And I saw this guy from Oklahoma. He's still there. His name's Tom Cole. And he got up there and slipped an amendment into that energy and water bill that protected secret campaign contributions. And he bragged about it. So I'm watching this while like cleaning up dog hair in my living room. And I'm like, there's no way I actually heard that. Like I had to have heard that wrong.
Right.
So for the second time in my life, I looked up the Congressional Record, which is a transcript of everything that happens in the House and the Senate every day.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he said exactly what I thought he said. And I found his amendment, which did exactly what I thought it did. So that's kind of what got the wheels turning when I went, okay, how often does this happen? Like maybe this is a once off, but just the way he did it and like, he wasn't trying to hide it. It was almost like he didn't think anyone was watching. And it turns out no one was, because when I went to the internet to try to find any information about it, like first I went to like Rachel Maddow's show and I went to the mainstream media expecting someone to be talking about this, and they didn't. But what was more shocking is I couldn't find a single article, blog, anything. It was like it never even happened.
Yeah.
And so after that, that's when I started looking into the bills more regularly to see how often does this happen? How often is something going in there that I think is a scandal, but is not being talked about? And it turns out it was happening all the time. And so after I discovered that, about 6 months later, I kind of landed on the podcast idea because I like to listen to news as I'm doing other things.
Yeah.
And so that's what made me decide to do it. It was like, I'm finding this stuff anyway. And it was a way that I could serve my country without picking up a gun. And so I started Congressional Dish, and it took years for it to catch on. But now people are listening, and I think it's starting to make a difference. But yeah, it was more me being like, there's information in here, and wanting to scream it from the rooftops. And so doing it on the internet was a little bit more effective than, standing and just yelling. So, so that's how the podcast came to be.
So do you think that, I think we can all agree that the mainstream media is just a big bought and sold kind of deal?
Yeah. Quite literally, because of their funding model.
Exactly. I mean, it's a 24-hour news. You have to have ratings in order to stay on the air. But you said that you weren't finding this information that people were talking about anywhere. So we're talking even smaller media outlets were not talking about it.
Yeah.
Do you think that this lack of information is just a product of how little people care about this sort of thing, or do you think that they're doing it surreptitiously enough that people just aren't noticing?
I think there's a couple factors to this. I think there's so much information, especially right now. In the last 6 months, I mean, I can't keep up with everything that's going on day to day. And so every single person that's trying to give information, they have their things that they're interested in.
Right.
And so I really don't think it's a malicious thing on a whole. I think there's certain things the mainstream media can't talk about because of their financial interests. So for instance, like for a very long time, I don't think they still are, but NBC and MSNBC, that whole Universal, all those, they were owned by GE, which is a defense contractor.
Right.
And so of course they weren't going to be anti-war because they make money from it. And, you watch the news right now, I guarantee you're going to see a pharmaceutical commercial. And so there's certain things that, like we were talking off air about the heroin epidemic. And a lot of that starts with people who are taking pills, which are, legal, but they're also advertising this crap on TV. And so that is a connection that there's a financial interest in those journalists not making that as clear to their audience as they could, because the people that fund their show, the pharmaceutical industry, might pull some of their ad dollars. So that's it's like a soft kind of corruption where it's like you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, and what's feeding you are these companies that are using our government to get what they want. So that's part of like the overt corruption that's happening. Yeah. But I also think that reading bills it's not easy. And I think there is a laziness factor to it because it does take a lot of work and a lot of time, and it's boring. I can tell you when I'm reading a long bill, the hardest part of it for me is staying awake. So I actually have to like change my posture, and I have all these tricks to just like keep plowing through it. So I think that's a part of it. And then I also think that when it comes to covering Congress and the executive branch, I think a lot of the people that do that all live in Washington, D.C., and there is a real bubble there where there's conversations happening between the journalists. And I think that's what makes them end up covering the same things as each other, because instead of just reporting news and inviting on experts, they invite each other. You'll notice it's always the same people that are invited to talk about these issues that a lot of times they're not experts in, they're just paid pundits.
Yeah.
And so by replacing journalism with punditry, I think that's how you get this circle jerk of journalism where you get the same stories just regurgitated because that's the hot topic of the day. It's almost like DC journalism has become some kind of lame high school. And I think all those factors together are what's doing this disservice to the country, because the things that I'm finding, I think they're incredible. The conversations that are having in Congress that I can play for you, it's all public domain. The fact that I'm doing this and so many others aren't, it's baffling to me, because the stories that I'm finding are they're so fascinating. And it's like, if these other journalists, and that's part of my goal. I want people with larger microphones to take the stories that I'm putting out there and, really research them. They're in DC. And to a small extent that's happened. But yeah, I think there's a lot of different things that are corrupting our media right now. And I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to do the best I can to, I guess, add more information out there and hopefully drag some eyeballs over to Congress, because right now everything's focused on the executive branch.
Right.
As Congress is slipping these things into bills, this extra stuff on their kind of midnight hour, or even like you said with Cole, brazenly slipping them in there, do you think it's because they know nobody is watching or really cares outside of like the really diehard political fans?
Yes.
Yeah.
Short answer, yes. Because what we've also seen is that I have talked about so much just overt corruption and the way the Republicans, because since I started doing Congressional Dish, I've been focusing a lot on the House of Representatives, because that's where my hope is, because that's our branch. Congress is our branch in general, but it's really the House of Representatives where we have the most control, and it's the House of Representatives that controls the money. So I focus really hard on the House, and the Republicans have had it the whole time I've been doing Congressional Dish. And even though I've been documenting just horrific things that they've done, the way that they operate the House, like for example, the government's supposed to be funded with 12 very carefully crafted bills that get signed into law by September 30th. I've never seen that happen. Instead, you get all of the bills crammed into this 2,000-page monster. They call it an omnibus. But you see these giant bills, they're never available for more than 2 days to read. And that's how things get snuck into law, because they attach it to these giant bills that are crafted so quickly and last minute that things that aren't supposed to be law, that wouldn't become law on their own, basically, like, they call it a vehicle. And so they stick these things into the vehicle of the giant bill, and they become law. And I've seen this so many times, and I've documented it so many times, and yet we keep electing them. Incumbents, the main thing that you have to look at to guess whether or not someone's going to become or is going to win an election for Congress is whether or not they're already there. Because people just keep voting in the incumbents. And I think that's a big problem, because they've learned, and correctly, that no matter what they do, they're going to get reelected. And it's our fault, So yeah, I think that's the long answer of saying yes. I think these people are not afraid of us anymore because we're not doing anything about it.
Right. So do you think, there are a lot of, outrages and screams about this and that and the other that we hear about in the media every day.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's just this laziness or this lack of knowledge that is really, like, trying to phrase how this would go?
Blaming aliens.
I'm blaming aliens.
Are we bringing aliens?
Yes. Do you think it's the aliens?
Like outer space aliens,
people.
not the Trump aliens, outer space aliens.
Yes. So we see this screaming from, really even either side as far as it goes. But do you think that this laziness on the part of the people to be really engaged is the primary reason that we have such an issue with the government systems right now? Or is it more the control of companies where they're buying our political figures and padding their pockets from the inside so they can get what they want? Which do you think weighs more heavily?
So are you saying is it more indifference or corporate sponsorship that's affecting these bills?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Pretty much the indifference of the people versus corporate sponsorship.
I think it's corporate sponsorship is the bigger problem, because I think, and I'm proving this with Congressional Dish, when people find out about what's going on in Congress, they definitely care. But like I said, I'm doing this because I didn't know where to get this information. It sure as hell isn't being given to us on the TV. Yeah. And that's where a lot of baby boomers in particular are still getting their news. With our generation, I assume that you're like under 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with our generation, a lot of us are getting our news from the internet, and we're going back to reading our news. But the people that are voting the most are still the baby boomer and even our grandparents' generation. Like, we still haven't stepped up to vote. And so what we're getting is we got a president who's a reality TV star. Like, that's what happens. We have this like sickness with the television. And so I honestly, like, I do blame us, obviously, because we're the ones that can change the people in Congress. But it really is this corporate control of like everything, because we have 5 or 6 companies that control almost all our media. And that goes all the way down to the local stations.
Right.
Because what you'll find is, like, I travel around the country all the time, and you'll see that the stories that night on local news are exactly the same from place to place. And it's because one affiliate will do a story and then they'll push it out nationwide. And they do that as a cost-cutting measure, because it's a lot cheaper to do one story and give it to all of your affiliates, as opposed to having a reporter in every single market actually doing local news.
Right.
And so we have this consolidation of our media, that entire apparatus. You've got multinational corporations and these giant companies that are paying for that news. I mean, every single year, Starbucks has some new smoothie or whatever, and it becomes news. Like, that's how you know that your news is corrupted, when these native advertisements for stores, or like every time the McRib comes back, the news talks about it.
I mean, it's a unicorn. It's a unicorn smoothie, and the McRib's pretty good. So I don't know.
That unicorn frap thing, which is basically diabetes in a cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all over the local news.
But they put sprinkles in it. So
there's sprinkles in it, Jennifer.
That's a big part of it. And then you also touched on it too, where now you have these corporate interests that are just not even hiding the fact that they're paying your politicians. I mean, I call campaign contributions legal bribes, because that's exactly what they are. These politicians, which have the power to make laws, what they are doing is they're crafting the laws, just like Tom Cole did, so that the contributions can come in larger numbers and that they can keep them secret. And so what you're finding is that these people are raising, they say it has to be for their campaigns, but think about what campaign money can go to. It can go towards dinners for you and your friends and like hundreds of people, open bar parties that they call fundraisers. Campaign contributions go towards television ads. So that is another way that it's all mixed up, because if you think about, if you're a TV network executive, do you really want to do a hit piece on a politician that's giving you a ton of money in ads? And so it's all just like, it's this corruption of money in our government right now. And until we make bribery illegal again, I don't see how we fix the problem. And the way that we fix that problem is we have to get control of the body that makes the laws on a national level, which is Congress. So that's why I focus so heavy on the House of Representatives, because we can change the House of Representatives every 2 years. Every single person in the House of Representatives is up for election every 2 years. And so if we cleaned house and we made sure that every person that we elected was someone who said, we're going to make bribing of politicians illegal again, if we can just do it once, that's the key, I believe, to absolutely everything that we're horrified by right now. Because if those politicians were not being paid by these companies, then they wouldn't have the incentive to write these laws that are so overtly on behalf of large companies in a way that hurts us. We're the labor, we're the workers, we're the ones they're trying to pay less, we're the ones they're trying to take health insurance away from. And so yeah, I think money in politics is the key to absolutely all of it.
Well, here's something I want to get your opinion on, speaking of money in politics. And like, as an aside first, talking about looking at sponsorship, whenever climate change was huge in the news a year or two ago, before the election happened, and now we have one person really that the news focuses on.
Yeah.
You could see the people speaking out against climate change, and with 1 or 2 clicks of the button be like, oh, well, they're being given, $100 million a year from oil companies. So of course they're against climate change. Like, it's not even half a step. But that was just an aside. My question is, when people, would like to think the best of people, when some of these people get into the House and some of these people get into Congress, do you think that there's a bit of corruption that happens once they get in there? Because, I mean, I would like to think that these people who are getting voted in, some of them at least aren't going in thinking, I can't wait to get in there and start getting some corporate sponsorship and start just voting the way they want me to. Do you think it's more of kind of an insidious little worm that gets in there? Or do you think it's just...
That definitely happens.
Yeah.
That 100% happens. They have these orientations in the beginning, like for the new congressmen, where they get indoctrinated into how things go in Congress.
Right.
And, there's a law that says that you can't dial for dollars from your congressional office. And so one of the reasons that the House of Representatives, the actual floor, is empty just about any day that's not the State of the Union is because our representatives are at phone banks, which are literally across the street from the Capitol, calling people asking for money. So it's like that is what they feel like their job is. Right now, there's such a culture in Congress that says that your job from the minute you get there is to raise at least $1 million so that you can win your next election. And on top of that, not only do you have to raise money for yourself, but if you're running as a Republican or Democrat, they have quotas that you have to give money to the party. So you have to raise a couple $100,000 and give it to the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, depending on which one you're in. So yeah, they seem to, and this is not a systemic thing. The fact that they set up those phone banks across the way lets you know that someone knows what they're doing is wrong. But because they're all doing it, there's this group think that happens, which is why I feel like it's so necessary to clean house. Get them all out. We have the instruction manual on how to run Congress. It's called the Constitution. We can go back to the basics. But right now, the people that do get elected, especially the people, and most of them get elected because of their fundraising abilities, they feel like that is their main responsibility. And that is a huge, huge problem. And the thing is also, like you mentioned that you don't want to think the worst of people. Another thing that I've learned by watching Congress is that I don't think any of them are there to harm the country. I think a lot of the people that we currently have in Congress in both major parties, they see themselves as businessmen and women.
Yeah.
And so they go there and they feel like they're representing their constituents by representing the big businesses in their districts. That's why you hear jobs so often. That's the way they justify it to themselves, that they're helping these businesses and therefore they're helping the people.
Yeah.
I wholeheartely disagree with that, especially when you see the way that they want to change the laws in regards to pensions and 401ks and health benefits and just every single time I've seen something related to workers, it's giving the bosses more freedom to do with us what they will. But the people that are in there, you hear them all the time speaking as business owners, not as workers, as owners. And so I don't think that they're in there purposely trying to do harm, but it's up to us to hold them accountable. And that's the part that's missing. A lot of us, we look at these people and we talk about, economics and capitalism and not realizing that we're the workers that get exploited in that system. And instead of voting as workers, a lot of us are voting as people who someday may own a giant business, even though that is so unlikely.
Yeah.
So I think we also need to see ourselves as in this together, where most of us, the vast majority of us, are the people that are earning the paychecks and serving them. And we need to protect ourselves instead of it's almost like Munchausen syndrome, where it's like you're siding with the people who are abusing you and electing them to represent you. I think we need to have another workers movement in this country, because right now in both parties, the bosses are the ones in charge and they're changing the rules in their favor, which is exactly what you would think they would do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think the split now, especially, I know there's always been a split between the left and the right, but the huge chasm split between the left and the right only helps to feed into that even more, because then the people in power on both sides can look and say, hey, you want to keep voting for me, otherwise the other guys are going to get in, and ignore the things that I've done.
I have to interrupt you here, because that left-right divide, I don't think it's real. Now that I know how they actually govern, I think that's what they use to divide us and to get votes, exactly like you said. But when you look at the way they govern, the real divide is the people that are working on behalf of the bosses and the owners of these giant corporations, and then the people working on behalf of the workers. That's the real split. And we don't know that. So we're told that everything is left and right, but they don't make sense. Like, War is a really, really good example, because the people in charge right now, even though it's people like you and I that are the workers, we're the ones that go and fight, it's our neighbors, it's our friends that go and die in these things. But the leaders of both the Republican and Democratic Party, they are now both pro-war. So if you're looking at it by left and right, which one is the anti-war party right now? Is it the one that was led by Hillary Clinton, who wants Trump to bomb even more of Syria, who said on the day that he bombed the government that he should take out their air force and then send troops to enforce safe zones? Is that the anti-war party? Or is it Donald Trump's party, who just kind of bombs people whenever he thinks he needs better ratings? Like, where's the left and right divide there?
Yeah,
you know?
I feel like a lot of it's manufactured, like you were saying, too. While more important things are happening behind the scenes and these bigger decisions are being made, this split between the left and the right is manufactured, and the flames are stoked that, hey, you don't like the other guy, focus on this inter-party squabbling, focus on calling them alt-right, or focus on liberal tiers instead of actually looking up at what we're doing.
Bingo.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there is this, I really think that it all filters back to, and you know, from what you're telling us about your podcast and your focus and all of that, it's exactly the right thing that more people need to hear. The problem is what you're doing is difficult work. You said it yourself. You have to do special techniques to keep yourself from going to sleep while you're reading a bill. But it is something that is incredibly important for people to do, and I just don't think that they want to invest the time to do it. So we have this kind of destructive mentality where we just take all this surface news that's constantly being fed at us. Even if we avoid the mainstream media and are getting our media from, you know, smaller outlets, they're still charged in one way or another.
But I think that that's something that speaks well towards Jennifer's podcast.
Yeah.
Is like she has, at least from what we could see online, it looks like you have a pretty large fan base, Jennifer, as far as people who are listening, which shows that people are interested in these things. She's doing the heavy lifting and reading these massive, obviously super boring bills, but people are listening to these episodes and listening to her explain them, you know? So people are interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely interested. And what I love is that I have listeners and contributors, because like I said, I've been railing about advertising on this show. And for the very same reasons, I don't accept advertising. So I have donors from all 50 states. And this podcast is proving to me that we're not divided the way we're told. The people that are telling us that we're divided into these two groups, left, right, red, blue, however you want to put it, those are the people that are benefiting from dividing us in that way. Yeah. But like, look at this conversation right now. In theory, I'm a hippie leftist from San Francisco, and you guys are rednecks from coal country, West Virginia, and yet we're having a very civilized conversation where we're agreeing on a lot of stuff. Right. So even in this conversation, we're proving what they're saying wrong. You know, we can talk to each other. We do agree on a lot. We can find a common ground, and that's one of the things that I've loved about doing this podcast is I'm exposing not only to myself, but to other people that we are far more united when we actually speak to each other. And it's beautiful. It's a really good thing.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the things, like, I interact with somebody who identifies as a Republican on a regular basis. I identify as a liberal as far as that goes. I don't really identify because I don't like putting myself in a bubble like that.
Well, and you follow politics so little anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we've decided that you would actually be a libertarian if you were something.
Yeah.
And I'm about as left-wing as you can get, I would say. I'm pretty liberal guy.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Why are we even right now labeling ourselves at all?
But
like, why do you feel the need to tell me, like, this is where I fit in the boxes that they are prescribing for us? Like, you can think things outside of those bubbles. Like, you can, I don't know. It just makes me crazy how many times I get in these conversations and we all devolve into, well, this is where I fall on the bullshit spectrum. Like,
right. But that's where I was, that's where I was going with this, is that, you know, he and I have frequent discussions about this stuff. And we find that, I mean, yeah, we have differing views on things, but they're not as far out of line as what the mainstream media or whatever bullshit we get fed. It's not as important as they seem to make it. That was the point.
It's not important at all. If anything, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Which is why I try to discourage it anytime it happens in my presence, because it's like, let's talk about whatever issue we're talking about instead of well, coming at this as I am on the left, you know, like, stop doing that, because if we don't need to put ourselves on teams before we have the conversation. Just have the conversation, and then it doesn't matter where these teams are fake. They're fake. Like, that's my whole point. They're not real. Like, who's the leader of team left? Who's the leader of team right? Like, they're just not real. So
and if I could get more people, or if I could meet more people that were the same way, like, because I'm that way. I don't give a shit about what party you're introducing. I don't care. You know, if you want to talk to me about something, about an issue, then let's talk about the issue. I don't need you parroting back a bunch of crap that you've heard from one place or another.
Well, yeah, but as far as saying, you know, I consider myself a liberal, I consider myself this, or I consider myself that, I view that as, you know, not if you're having a headbutting discussion with somebody, but if you're discussing politics and you say that, isn't that kind of just a shorthand way to say, here's what I believe on basic issues? I can say, here's where I am on this and here's where I am on that and blah, 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 unrelated to the conversation. I don't think
so. You don't think so? Arbitrarily, you're putting yourself into a box. Why define what a liberal is? Because like I said, right now, the liberal candidate in 2016 was a pro-war, pro-fracking, you know, like, this was not, if you looked at the definition of what liberal is supposed to be, she wasn't one. And so it's like, you can say that you're on the liberal side, but what exactly does that mean? So you're giving someone else a reason, you're handing them a reason to take some preconceived notions that exist in their head because you don't even know what they consider a liberal to be. And you're saying, here, apply all these to me before we even start the conversation. And you've already proven, like, if someone says that I consider myself a conservative and you're a liberal, then you're already coming at this from the very beginning as enemies instead of Americans who are trying to figure out what's best for the country. So no, I think it's incredibly damaging. People think that it's a shortcut, but actually it makes things a lot harder when you're trying to have a conversation about how to make a better country.
You're immediately introducing this bias for one way or the other if you're talking to somebody who's different than you. Or bias in your favor if you're talking to somebody who is like you in these views. But really, it boils down to whatever singular view that you happen to be talking about at the time. So I mean,
it can work the other way too. I mean, you can call yourself a liberal and someone will, like, automatically assume you agree with them on something when you don't.
Yeah.
So it's like, just go issue by issue. These labels, they're not helping. They're only hurting.
So what's the alternative as far as that goes then?
We're all Americans. That's it. It's the only team that matters. It's like, we're all American citizens. We're in this one country together, and we can take it issue by issue. We can have, if we wanted to, every single one of us could be official independents in the House of Representatives. Like, I understand why the parties were necessary back in the horse and buggy days, because you kind of did need to have a leader to send out the messages and be like, okay, this is kind of what our group believes in. But now with the internet, I mean, you can put up a YouTube video right now that goes out to everyone as individuals. These parties are no longer necessary. And what we've seen is they're really rigging the process for themselves now. They've become these groups that are just so damaging. I mean, you saw how the DNC runs their system. They saved 15% of their votes for party insiders. They call them super delegates. So it's rigged in their actual platform, but it's a private club. They can do whatever they want.
Right.
You know, so it's like, we don't need these parties anymore. It is possible to have 535 independent individuals in Congress working together to make laws instead of having these two parties that are constantly at battle with each other. We don't need it anymore. We can communicate as individuals. So,
but you don't
I think that's where we need to go towards.
See, because I feel like at this point, I mean, the two-party system is definitely flawed, and I don't think that there should be, if we were able to vote in the best candidate. But it also seems like the two-party system, it's pretty idealistic to think we can just abolish it without making steps towards, you know, going towards a third party and then going more towards.
It's not a system. Like, it's funny that you use that term, because I think that is something that is used by the two parties to make us think that we need to vote for one of them, but they're not a part of the system. There's nothing in the Constitution that says it has to be Democrats or Republicans. Back in the day, there were 4 or 5 different parties, and you would see that for the president, it would go to the House of Representatives for the Electoral College, because the Electoral College it's a weird, messed up system.
Yeah.
But we have had the House of Representatives decide the presidency before, because there were were more than two parties. But the Democrats and Republicans, they really have convinced people that they are our only options, which is why they're able to get away with being the same exact party when it comes to corporatism and trade and, basically surrendering our sovereignty to these international bodies like the World Trade Organization and the UN. When it comes to matters of war, they're on the same side. There's so many ways, and Wall Street bailouts, there's so many ways in which these two parties, on the really big stuff, all of them having to do with money, that they operate together. So no matter which party we choose, the oligarchs win. And that phrase, two-party system, is such a key part of it because they are not a part of our system. The Constitution doesn't mention these parties. We don't need to vote for them. And it doesn't have to be a third party either. We don't have to go from Democrats and Republicans to libertarians and Greens. We don't have to do the party thing. It is not required. I've actually looked it up. In every single state in the United States, you can get onto the ballot for the House of Representatives as an independent. No party needed. And in fact, sometimes it's easier. So the two-party system is a lie, too. It's not real. Well, all you have to do in order to change the system is to stop voting for Democrats and Republicans. Have the courage to vote outside that system if you're tired of the way that they're governing. And I think that's also kind of what we saw in 2016, is that there were a lot of people that either decided to not vote or vote outside the system. And obviously, it's backfiring. But if this 50% of us that didn't bother to vote did show up and voted for someone else would have won in a landslide because Hillary got 24%, Trump got about 25%, and 50% did not vote. So if you take all those people, they vote for someone else, we've got a different country.
So are there any movements that you've looked at? I know that the Indivisible movement has started to take root around here anyway. Are there any movements that you think are going in the right direction towards something like this?
Well, I like the idea of brand new Congress. What they're trying to do is find people to run, but I talked to them because they were trying to get me to run, and they definitely said the word progressive like 15 times. They're like, we'll run people who are progressive, and it's like, okay, so you've picked a side. Yeah. And they're not running 100% on taking money out of politics. They're instead saying we need to collect small donors. So I mean, I like that they're focusing on Congress. I think that's great. But at some point, and no, I haven't seen this. At some point, I think someone needs to get in to prove that we can run using the internet, using the communication tools that we have without money. Someone has to win without taking money. And right now, I don't see any movements doing that. But at the same time, I'm also reading a lot of bills. I don't do politics, I do government. Right. So when it comes to running campaigns and I'm really not the best person to have insight on that because I've never run a campaign. I've never participated in a campaign. It's not really my thing.
Right.
But no, I mean, at this point, I think just the idea that we don't need to be Democrats or Republicans, I think that's really what needs to be spread at this point because there are still so many people that believe that we're in a two-party system, even though that's not true. Until we break that idea and prove that to be totally false, then I don't know. I think we're going to be stuck with these two parties for a while as long as people continue to vote for them as if they're the only options.
I don't know. I think at this point it's so far ingrained that we'd need a pretty major catastrophe, a really good shakeup to keep that from.
You don't think Trump is it?
Oddly enough, no.
Well, I mean, considering
I think it could get a lot worse.
His
it's
still
pretty bad.
85% approval rating on one side, I mean, says that there's a long way to go to get people unentrenched from their ideas of party.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look back at the votes and just approval ratings, there's about 20 to 25% of this country that will vote and support Republicans no matter what they do.
Right.
And this election proves it more than anything because, if you're Republican because you believe in morals, well, how many wives does Trump need to get before you realize he's not exactly a moral man? The fact that he spent Mother's Day golfing instead of with his wife and child,
I didn't know that.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a certain segment of this country that they're going to vote Republican or they're going to vote Democrat. It exists on that side, too. But like I said, 50% of us are sitting on the sidelines feeling unrepresented. Those are the people I want to talk to, the people that are not party loyalists, and they outnumber Democrats and Republicans combined. So I have an enormous amount of hope in them.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good note to go out on, I would say.
Yeah.
Cool.
Jennifer, where can people find you when it comes to, we can find you on congressionaldish.com, of course. That's where they can find your podcast with your online presence. So where else can they look to find your stuff?
Well, congressionaldish.com is a good place to find the podcast, but also the show notes, because one thing that's important is that I don't expect you to trust me. So I back up everything I say with links. You can read all the articles that I used, you can watch the hearings that I watched, and you can see the provisions. When I outline a bill, I link to each individual provision so you can check my work. So that's all on congressionaldish.com. I also have a free app for iPhones and Androids where the show notes come to you too, and it's just an easy way to get the podcast. And of course, you can find the podcast anywhere podcasts are found. And then to talk to me, I am Twitter obsessed. So the best way to reach me is through Twitter at Jen Briney.
All right. Very good. Brandon, you have anything else to say to Jen before she leaves?
Thanks for coming on. I mean, there was a lot of interesting stuff there. I really like your podcast. I've listened to a few episodes now. But yeah, I really enjoy what you do, and I think it's important what you're doing. And it's cool that you're getting the word out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. It was nice to meet you. And next time we want to do an episode like this, we'll definitely have you on.
Please do. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks again, Jennifer, for being on our podcast and showing that podcast love truly does exist.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciated you having on. I mean, it was nice. I will say that it was nice, even though it's something that we usually don't do, to have kind of a serious, in-depth, passionate discussion about something.
You're saying we don't ever have passionate or serious discussions about things?
No.
I feel like we do.
Listen, Brandon.
I railed pretty hard against Walk the Prank.
You did. But I won you over
Mm-hmm.
through sheer force of will and determination.
Yeah. I was listening to that episode because I was letting Bree listen to some of the lizard bite.
Yeah.
And then Pig Boy. And then we were laughing about it. And then it killed us both when after that ends and you're like, and then there was this other one. And you go into a third one. That killed me.
It's a pretty good show.
Yeah.
I like it well enough.
Yeah. So
It's all right.
Thank you, Jennifer, again. Also.
Sorry, I got off track. This is your fault.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. And the next time we want to do something like that, we'll definitely hit you up.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
We'll make it a political podcast.
No, we'll make it a governmental podcast. She's not interested in the political. She's interested in the governmental.
Mm-hmm.
And the government is totally mental, bro.
Don't
do
any of that.
So if you have any questions or comments or you'd like to hear yourself on air, you can call us at 978 DU-OGRES.
No.
What?
What? Stop.
What?
What was that? The more I think about it, the more layers of questions I have.
978 DU-OGRES. That's 978-386-4737.
What was that?
I don't know. It was just off the cuff, man.
You got like 90s on it.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
That's it. I'm wearing my parachute pants. I've got stair steps cut into the side of my head.
Mm-hmm. You were just completing the ensemble.
I've got my boombox and my jacket with shoulder pads. I'm super 90s right now.
The shoulder pads were 80s, weren't they?
Shut up.
Wasn't it
early 90s?
What were the jackets
Grunge.
called that everybody had? Members only jackets? Was
Denim.
that 90s?
Denim. I was more punk rock, so denim with studs.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Or leather with studs.
Handsome men?
Handsome men.
Go ahead. You can finish.
Finish what? My freaking outro? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Are we done with this?
I will never be done with this now.
You can also reach us on Twitter at Dueling Ogres. Email us at duelingogres@gmail.com or leave a comment on the Facebook page. Make sure to subscribe on our website, duelingogres.com, for new shows or articles pertaining to some of your favorite geek news. If you feel like you want to do a little bit of writing, you can send us an email at duelingogres@gmail.com. Say, hey, I thought it'd be really cool to write an article about some geek stuff.
Yeah, we'll lick your back and paste you right up there on the wall.
Yeah, you'll be up there for all the world to see, for all eternity, or until I quit paying for our domain name. And finally, be sure to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Find us on the YouTubes, the iHeartRadios. You can ring the little bell on the YouTube to get subscriptions for there if you wanna be notified when we post an episode on the YouTubes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I petered there for a minute. Do you have some shout outs?
I do. I have them pulled up. Keep an eye on the YouTube stuff because as we work on the studio, we do plan on doing videos. I mean, it's a bit down the pipeline, but the YouTube channel is going to become more active in the future.
That's right.
Kapow, the Pop Culture Podcast, commented on ours and said, "Great episode, guys. This whole feud is tough when the enemy is so likable. As a peace offering, we would like to donate an old t-shirt of ours to the sound deadening effort." And then they have a totally not photoshopped real picture of our logo, but it says Drooling Ogres, and it is Shrek with drool added to his mouth, staring deeply into the eyes of Fiona, the female ogre.
Yes.
And I had some questions, Remington, because you did argue that Fiona is hot in ogre form.
Yes, she is. I don't body shame, yo.
It's nothing to do with body shaming. It's more species shaming.
I mean,
if I were to say that I wasn't attracted to Fiona as an ogre,
it's a bipedal creature.
Is that the only qualifications you need?
Yes.
I'm
also down for ostrich love.
All right, moving on past that. Viscount Terry W. over in the second said, "Great interview," et cetera, et cetera. He said a bunch of stuff. He was looking for Rotten Tail. It's out of print. Looking forward to the movie when it comes out. Looking at sending my wife the link to the Dueling Ogres t-shirts and saying he would like one for Father's Day.
That's true. You can go to our website, click on the bazaar. It's the last link in our little menu bar there, or at the bottom if you're on mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And you can order yourselves the t-shirts.
Yeah.
In both male and female cuts.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to have like a svelter look, go with female cut.
Yeah.
That's what I wear.
Yeah. We also had
All of my clothing is female.
We also had one from the Diamond Man, too.
Yeah.
So.
He said, "David C. Hayes is a fascinating dude. I'm totally checking out his stuff. Plus, next time I'm on your show, I really need to step up my game." I think it's adorable that he thinks he's going to be on our show ever again. "I'm so boring compared to David. What website did you use to hook up with him? Can authors create profiles there?" The website that we're using is podcastguests.com.
Yes.
What it was is they reached out to us.
No.
Or did you reach out to them?
No, I put in our email for them. I don't know how he does it.
So here's how it works, basically. If you are a podcast, you get 1 week for free. You contact him, you give him the information of what your podcast is looking for, it posts on the site. You have 1 week free where anybody who's a member of podcastguests.com will see. It's sent out weekly. Will see your podcast and then can like fill out an online form that is sent to you to be a guest. After that, you pay. As the podcaster, you pay every time you want your podcast to be listed on the page.
Really? Is that how it works?
Mm-hmm. If you're a guest, you don't
we were just in a rotation.
The last I saw, it was paid. I could be wrong, though.
I think it's in a rotation.
Steven's asking as guest.
Yes.
So as a guest perspective, if anybody is interested, you go to podcastguest.com, you sign up, and then once a week, you get an email from them on Mondays saying, here's a list of all the podcasts that are advertising.
Right.
And you can go through and apply to be on the ones that pertain to you.
Okay.
Most of them that I've seen lately have had to do with like health, wellness, entrepreneurship, success stories and stuff, which we don't fit into any of those.
No, we are certainly not healthy or well or successful.
But as a writer, you could apply.
Yeah.
To be on there. And then there's some video game ones and some geek related ones sometimes.
Okay.
So that's how we do it.
That's how
the sausage is stuffed. I know that Larry also commented on one of our other, I think he commented on the picture of the episode instead of the actual episode.
Yeah.
And said he enjoyed it he enjoyed it and he was waiting for me to slob David's knob.
Yes.
At the end.
Yes.
Because I got a little excited with David being there. I loved him. I really loved the interview.
Yeah.
I love all of our interviews, obviously. I enjoyed the one with David, though.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, you were very excited. Very, very excited.
And it also brought me back to the mid-90s when people use the phrase slob knobs. Because I don't think that that's a phrase anybody has used in 20 years.
Right.
So thank you, Larry.
Yeah, thanks for that.
For taking me back to when I was 12.
Gonna go back in time. Yeah?
No, I don't know what that is, and I don't care to.
So until next week, Ogres, keep your clubs blunt.
And your tusks sharp.
Good night.
What was that?
Back in time?
Yeah.
Really?
No, I really don't know.
You don't know back in time?
Gotta go back to the past and that.
No, it's
Is that a totally different song?
Yeah, it's an absolutely different song.
my god. Can Kevin shut up about fucking Hearthstone for 5 minutes? I can say it because I know he doesn't listen to us. Well, he has plenty of time to play Hearthstone. He can't listen to us.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I know this song. Pretty on-the-nose song.
Man, I forgot how good Huey Lewis was. Yeah. I want to dance forever.
I'm not a fan of the synthy stuff, though.
Listen, Brandon. Get the fuck out of my house.
I am.
Good.
Like your dog and have him on, too. Or she.
Yeah, I don't think you want Abby on. All she does is snort right now. Okay, she's done. I think she's done anyway.
It's all right. I'm used to it.
Okay, sorry about that.
I'm used to it. My mom has pugs, so every time I call her, all I hear in the background is...
The breathing, yeah. Those are nice dogs, but I could not stand the noise or the slobber.
No, they sound
Abby's
terrifying.
a little 8-pound Maltese. She's easy.
I mean, we could scrap all of that stuff, Brandon, and we can just talk about puppies for an hour.
Do you have an hour's worth of puppy talk in you?
Oh, of course. I could talk about this pup all day. She's back in my lap. Back to sleep.
What is a Maltese?
I don't know.
She looks like Falcor from the Neverending Story.
We're going down, Peter.
Yeah, she's just a very small version of that.
Oh, wow. They are adorable.
Oh, yeah. She's the best. I found her on a bike path.
It's like if somebody, at least from the Google image search I just pulled up, it looks like if somebody said, hey, describe what an adorable puppy is, they would describe what a Maltese looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There was something else I was going to look up, and now I don't remember what it was.
Was it Falcor?
No, I know what Falcor is.
No, I just didn't know if you were reminded and wanted to see some pictures of Falcor.
Oh, yes. Well, now I have to.
So did you have any sort of like fandoms or anything, Jennifer, like outside of political areas? Any sort of fandoms you like?
Like geeky fandoms, like are you a comics fan or a Star Wars fan or
Oh, things that I'm into.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of obsessed with weather to the point that like there's a severe outbreak coming in the next couple days and I'll be like glued to all the weather stations because like I look up the local news in hopes that they're like chasing the tornadoes. So I'm kind of a freak about that stuff. I don't know. I play kickball, which is nerdy. I paddleboard. I travel too much. No. I mean, as far as fandoms are concerned, there's not like anything on TV or anything that I just like can't miss.
Yeah.
Besides the Weather Channel.
Yeah.
Well, what's great, I don't have cable right now. And so everything I see is online. So the Weather Channel, their app is really shitty. So that's why I started going to local news feeds because they'll go live anytime that there's severe weather in the local area. So like I'm obsessed with K4 in Oklahoma. They have the best coverage. So I love it when the tornado outbreak is there. But like I'll find in local news all over the country. And they actually do a better job than the Weather Channel. Because the Weather Channel's just become like ice road truckers. Like they're not even covering the weather anymore.
Yeah.
So I've abandoned them.
Ice Road Truckers is on the Weather Channel?
Yeah. And like a whole bunch of shows about Alaska for some weird reason. I do like things like weather caught on camera. So if I'm in a hotel, that's pretty much my go-to is the Weather Channel. But if there's a severe outbreak, unless it's happening around you, they won't cover it. Like they just keep their regular programming. So
yeah.
As far as like watching tornadoes as they happen, you kind of have to go local news at this point.
Huh.
Yep. Total dork. But I think that's why I can watch Congress because like I'm obsessed with natural disasters and I'm kind of watching one all the time.
Yeah.
With Congress, and I can most of the time find it funny. I've had emotional issues with what's been going on in the last 6 months, but but I'm starting to find the funny again just because it's so ridiculous. Like everything that's happening right now is so ridiculous. So, but I think being able to like love tsunamis and earthquakes and hurricanes, like it kind of makes it easier to cover horrible political things.
Oh man, I think it's one of our best.
Yeah, it's so good.
We're good at this.
We're so good at podcasting. Oh man, I don't know if I got enough snaps to do the green screen, but I definitely want to do this green screen. Man, I'm so excited about the green screen. I want to put your ass to work on that green screen.
I'm super excited to record from Mars.
Yeah, that'll be super sweet.
I'm gonna have to find a couple pictures of spaghetti so we can record from spaghetti. Reporting to you live from spaghetti.
We could do the Whose Line game.
Yeah,
that would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're really excited to do that.
We'll just need to find friends and then have them over to help us.
Yeah. We'd need friends.
Yeah, we don't really have.
We have no friends. We don't have time for friends.
Yeah.
They're overrated anyway.
I don't even have friends on Xbox, and that's a platform where you're supposed to have friends.
Yeah. It's got really disappointing.
Yeah.
I'm really down now.
It's okay.
Good night, ogres.
See you later, guys.
Bye. Bye. You ready?
Yep. I'm ready. Let's go. Rising up.
Back on the street.
You don't get to sing too. I sing. You didn't get to sing on that one. That was mine.
Sorry. Do you even know the lyrics?
No.
Well, there you go.
Something else. Got it down with my doggies. Meow, meow, meow.
Wait, there was a cat in there.
Yeah, it's a cat dressed as a dog. You've never seen Karate Kid?
No. It's not even from Karate Kid.
No, it is.
No, it's not. They did not use that on the soundtrack of Karate Kid.
Go back and watch Karate Kid.
Rising up, back on the street. To my time, to my chance now.
Bark, bark, bark.
Went the distance, now I'm back on my feet.
Why do you know the words to that?
Because it's the eye of the tiger, man. It's the thrill of the fight.
Rising up to this
challenge of our rivals, yes.
Yeah, okay.
God, you're the worst.
I know.
One of these days, I'm going to feel real bad about calling you that.
Well, when I kill myself?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know I don't believe that, right?
You won't feel it.
No, I don't believe that you're the worst.
Mm-hmm. Am I close to the worst?
No. I said you're middling.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
You're okay with being middling?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm pretty middling, too.
Middling or maudlin?
Maudlin.
Was that your maudlin
That's
impression?
my maudlin.
Remington, be maudlin.
Sad about life.
We are the best actors in the world. I love it.
Brandon, be chartreuse.
Oh.
Now be obtuse. Now be a goose.
Honk, honk.
I'm so tickled. Oh, that's good.
Actors Guild, hit us up.
We're the bee's knees.
We're going to be sagging before you know it.
You can't get any better than us, and we can do a transatlantic accent.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
We sure can.
We sure can, Brandon.
We sure can.
We sure can.
This is all just unusable garbage.
Yeah, well, this is all outtakes.
This is all going in the dumpster.
It's going in the outtakes dumpster.
Going to the podcast dump.
Oh, yeah.
Let's call back for some of our longer listeners.
That's right. Hold on. I'll edit this to make it sound like I had it queued up and ready to go.
You gonna play the podcast dump commercial?
Yeah. Maybe if I can find it.
You look like somebody hacking in a 90s movie. You're just clicking on folders and subfolders and backing up and enhance.
Need a little less je ne sais quoi and more je ne sais what? Come on down to West Virginia's own podcast dump, located just 2 miles east of that spooky barn everyone avoids. We have podcast parts galore, all at ridiculously discounted prices. Top 10 lists.
All right, these are my top 10 favorite Gordon Ramsay cooking techniques in order from hardest to easiest to fuck up. Number 10, biscotti.
Political satire. Remember that one time when George W. said Dan Marino and his really dynamic wife? Human interest pieces. This rural village east of Sussex has had its fair share of hardships, but none so difficult as the recent smoothie shortage. Kale literally lines the gutters, left to go woefully unblended. Celebrity gossip. Benedict Cumberbatch and his lovely wife just had their firstborn baby child, a male, and that's cool.
Yeah, people having children.
Yeah,
That's
famous people having children. Benedict Cumberbatch. Penguins. Professional interviews.
This book, this world, has been an idea in the making for the past 12 years. That's where botany for dogs truly stems from.
Movie reviews. I don't care what you say. Sean Connery's role as Zed in Zardos is masterful. Pure genius. Free nerd rage with every purchase. Need a sponsor? We've got hundreds. Audible, Loot Crate, Squarespace, Hulu Plus, Netflix, Harry's. All this and more at the Tri-State's largest, definitely not haunted, podcast dump. Hi, I'm Albert, and we have everything you need here at the podcast dump where it's garbage. Oh, I love it. So good.
I had
All right.
These are the
I
outtakes.
can't see your giant fucking head's in the way. All right. These are my top 10 favorite Gordon Ramsay cooking techniques in order from hardest to easiest to fuck up.
Giant fucking heads in the way.
Fuck you. Move.
Move.
Number 10, biscotti. Number 9, fat biscotti.
Okay, I want you to, once we quit laughing, I want you to do number 10, biscotti.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. These are my top 10 favorite Gordon Ramsay cooking techniques in order from hardest to easiest to fuck up. Number 10, biscotti. No.
Biscotti. It's so good.
That's at the top of the list for hardest to fuck up.
Oh shit. Movie review. Audible, Loot Crate, Squarespace. Why didn't I say Kevin Spacey there?
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin
All
Spacey.
right.
I don't think that I can ever top the joke of less je ne sais quoi and more je ne sais what. I think that is like the highlight of anything I've ever created or had created.
I stole that line, though. That's the problem.
What do you mean?
I stole that je ne sais quoi and more je ne sais what.
Well, yeah, no, I gave it to you. I suggested you do it as like the opening. Like when we were working on the episode together, I said that would be funny.
Yeah. Wait, did you? No, I had heard it somewhere.
No, I came up with it.
Are you sure?
I'm 100% positive.
Are you 100%?
Yes.
If I were to look up...
Because
je ne
I
sais
thought
quoi-
it was hilarious.
Okay. I'm going to put this to the test. Google knows all.
Google.
I don't know how to spell je ne sais quoi. Oh, I remember. It's from a Sonic commercial.
What?
It's totally from a Sonic
You're
commercial.
fucking kidding me.
Nope.
It's been said.
Yep. That's where I got it.
Man, these boneless chicken wings are great.
Yeah, I know, and I finally found myself a wingman.
You're going to use the wing as your wingman.
Yeah, for the ladies.
How is that going to help you at all?
It's gonna make me irresistible.
Oh, right. Yeah, going to give you that certain je ne sais quoi.
Jenna said what?
Jenna?
Did she mention me by name, or was it just kind of like, was she just talking in general?
I said je ne sais quoi.
I know, but what did she say?
Be a
I mean, ours is better.
That's not. I came up with that joke of je ne sais what.
No.
I promise you I have it written down in a notebook. We're not going to do this in front of the kids. But I promise you I came up with that.
Okay. I mean, this was 2014, which was like a year and a half after we did that. So, but okay, we came up with it.
I came up with it.
You came up with it.
We didn't come up
You
with anything.
came up with
I
it.
came up with it.
You're the smartest boy I know.
Thank you. That's
Oh my
all I
God.
wanted to hear.
Yeah, my pleasure. I love to pad that ego. That
Mhm.
cute little ego of yours.
Give it a little kiss on the tush.
Mwah. It's so soft and
Okay,
round.
all right. Let's do the fucking outro.
So if you have any questions or comments, no, I'm going to back that up and I'm just going to do it all over
Yeah,
again.
wow.
I'm going to say goodbye to her again and thank you again because I'm a shitty host.
Mm-hmm.
Ah!
Thank you. That's what I and every single one of our listeners has been saying.
I have selective hearing.
Even the ones in the Middle East.
I don't understand. I developed some stuff in my throat. As soon as I smacked.
Jostle something free?
Yeah, probably. I've been drinking diet soda for a really long time now.
Uh-huh.
I'm not used to all the sugar that's in the...
Oh, yeah, it makes like a throat coating.
Yeah, it does.
A throating.
Stupid.
You know, what's funny as an aside, Jennifer, whenever I was looking up after your people had contacted us and I was looking up things about your podcast, I found a Reddit AMA that you'd done in 2015
Yeah.
and had remembered as I was reading it that I totally had read that AMA in 2015.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, and had completely forgotten about it until I saw it and was like, I think I even commented on this 2 years ago.
Oh, how funny. Yeah,
That's
that
cool.
hit the top of Reddit, that was a big catalyst for the podcast. That was the first. That was actually kind of overwhelming for me because it got so much feedback that I didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
But it was definitely cool. And there's still people that listen to the podcast to this day that found it from the AMA. And every once in a while, I still get emails being like, I've been listening for 2 years because of the AMA. And I need to do another one. But yeah, that was cool. And I was doing it as a favor to two guys that were writing a book. I didn't even think anything would happen. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was cool.
That is cool. And it's fortunate that you have a show that has basically a centralized theme because our show doesn't. I mean, we focus on geek and nerd culture by and large, but we have no like specific thing that we drive on about. So it is fortunate to have a driving force because you can do an AMA that actually makes sense and stays on topic.
Yeah. Well, and I chose Congress and left the name Congressional Dish pretty broad on purpose because I didn't know where it was going to go.
Yeah.
So like I said, I was doing nothing but reading bills in the beginning, but now like there's so many good hearings. And so I get to change it. And what's fun is like Congress legislates everything. So I can twist anything I want to research into an episode. Like I wanted to go to Puerto Rico. So I did a kick-ass episode on Puerto Rico and it fit because Congress had just done something. So, yeah, it's a broad topic, but it's it's like specific enough to where I can get, it's something like an AMA done, but it's broad enough to where I can go down some fun rabbit holes. And I'm glad I picked it. It's working out good.
That's cool. That's really good.
So let me ask you then, because this has been kind of a theme with people that we've had on before that we've interviewed, Remington.
Okay.
With your podcast being successful and you continuing to grow your brand and stuff, do you have any advice for people who are working, not just in podcasts, but anything online in general, news sources, to get their message heard more? Like, what is it you're doing you feel like that's pulling people in?
I have a really good show. It's really that simple. Because I didn't focus on marketing for a very long time. In fact, for the first year, I wasn't even trying to make money. I just wanted to see, do I like podcasting? Was there actually something there to talk about in Congress? So I didn't even try to make this a business until I kind of had to. But it caught on via word of mouth. I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I don't, I'm sure the show could be much bigger if I was willing to spend all my time on it.
Right.
But what's happening is that people are enjoying the episodes, they're learning stuff from them, and they're sharing it. And that's the key to my success, is that if I have an extra hour, I spend it on making a better show, not on, talking to randoms on Twitter and Facebook and doing that stuff. I put all my energy into a good show, and it's paying off. And I'm giving people something they can't find elsewhere. I think that's key too.
Yeah.
So, make a good product and people will come and find it.
That is definitely one of the things that I've learned from my new recent job, is that, we treat our customers very well. And we have grown quite a bit from where we were last year because of word of mouth. And it's because we treat people better and differently than the other places that do the same thing that we do.
Makes a huge difference.